Well, the White House is feeling the political pressure over the border crisis. The Biden administration reportedly pushing immigration and customs enforcement to deport more migrants under a, quote, detained docket. But according to the LA Times, about 60,000 migrants have entered the docket since it was launched in May of last year, but only 150 have been deported through last month. I want to bring in Texas Congressman, House Appropriations Committee member Tony Gonzales. Congressman, it's good to see you again. You were just in Eagle Pass, Texas last week. You were talking to officials on the ground. Give us your most recent account of what's going on at the border, as well as your reaction to this LA Times report.
Yeah, good morning, Cheryl. Thank you for having me. You know, on the ground, the numbers just continue to swell. Just when you think that it can't get any worse, it does. And the bottom, we can't seem to have found the bottom. And while the Biden administration is playing games and is saying that they're doing one thing, their actions show a complete another. And, you know, in San Antonio, it's about 2.5 hours from Eagle Pass. They opened up a migrant center a few weeks ago. And as soon as this migrant center opened up, it was at max capacity like other places. And people around the city have started to complain. So Mayorkas is going to be making a trip to San Antonio later this week. And what he's going to find out is this migrant center is ran by the San Antonio Fire Department. So anytime you open up these centers, the community loses, right? These firefighters would much rather be out in the community, you know, keeping people safe than in these migrant centers all day long. These numbers, these LA Times numbers, it shows that the administration isn't doing what it's supposed to do and expel people that do not qualify for asylum.
Well, they're not enforcing the law at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You're right. You're exactly right. This goes away with one thing: enforce the laws that are already on the books. I will tell you, House Republicans are committed to ensuring to keep the pressure on. When we win back the House, you're going to see hearings. You're going to see people brought forth. You're going to see a transparency that we haven't seen in this administration. They like to hide the numbers. They like to move things around. Like I said, back on the ranch, back home in the district, you've got communities that are impacted by this. These NGOs, these non-government organizations that used to do a lot of wonderful work with homeless and drug addiction and other areas, suicide prevention, they're all sucked up into this migrant crisis as well. So our communities are losing now. Now we're having firefighters in these migrant centers, operating in these migrant centers. When is it going to stop?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and you've also seen, again, at least we saw in Texas already, a change in how people vote because they're looking for change or looking to the Republicans to make that change, in particular in the state of Texas. You serve on the American Security Task Force. That focuses on Biden's border crisis, cyber attacks, as well as supporting law enforcement. If Republicans take back the House in November, you say the task force is ready to implement a plan to secure the border. What is that plan?
Yeah, the plan starts by educating our House members. And it's not only the current members. I've hosted 12 congressional delegations at the border. It's also our future members. Actually, later this week, I'll be hosting 8 top-tier candidates, Republican candidates, to the border. That way, on day one, when Republicans take back the House, we'll be ready to go. Now, what will we push for? We'll push for Remain in Mexico. That's a policy that worked. We will push to keep Title 42 around until there is an alternative. That's another area that is working. And ultimately, repatriation flights. These are people that do not qualify for asylum that are returned back to their country of origin. You do these things coupled with some others, like technology, add technology to the border, more boots on the ground. All of this it can go away if you put the resources towards it. House Republicans are certainly committed to it, but we have to educate ourselves. That's why I've been hosting all these delegations at the border.
And of course, we've made that point many times on this show that Mexico is just the gateway, and that these illegal immigrants are coming from all over the world. Terror watch list suspects have been found, as well as the drugs. And in particular, we're seeing a lot of Brazilians now, this crush of Brazilians crossing through. I mean, there's a huge business in Brazil advertising, saying, get on a bus, pay us a little bit of money, and we're going to take you into the U.S., and it's happening. Real quick, Florida Congressman Brian Mast joined Maria on Sunday Morning Futures yesterday on the impact of Biden's botched withdrawal from Afghanistan 1 year later. Listen to this.
How would you say the withdrawal impacted America 1 year later? We see that a continuation of Biden's policies on every foreign affairs front, which is this: no commitment to red lines. There was no red lines in Afghanistan, no red lines with the Taliban with our withdrawing, no red lines on our southern border, no red lines with China and Taiwan, no red lines with Iran. This is what the world looks like under Joe Biden.
No red lines, Congressman. Your reaction?
Yeah, that was a very powerful interview. And, anyone that served in Afghanistan feels very, very similar. I served 5 years in Afghanistan during my 20 years in the military. And, I'll tell the President Biden, that Afghanistan veterans, we will not forget what happened a year ago. It could be, on our deathbed, we will not forget the embarrassment and ultimately the death. He caused 13 Americans to be killed. We will never forget that. We will hold him accountable. And there is a role to play here in foreign policy. We've seen the president fail on domestic policy, but he has equally failed on the national stage on foreign policy. And it's no longer, this isn't a game. People are getting killed. Americans are getting killed abroad. And I'll tell you, Afghanistan veterans, we won't forget this.
Well, Congressman, first off, thank you for your service to your country. And I will make the fine point here that, and we've talked about that a lot in the last week, that after Afghanistan, our view, our place in the world stage really has changed. And people saw America and Biden as weak. And that's what Xi Jinping is saying. That's what Vladimir Putin is saying. And now the world is where it is today. Congressman, thank you very much for being here.